counting down the days.
So did you hear?
Vultures and holidays, you know, we're all friends. And folks, there was that whole group, Bill and Roger. But yes,
Testing.
ambulance.
We're on.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the September 9th regular town council meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation to be given by Vice Mayor Greg Boland. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lord, we thank you for this time we come to do the work of the town. I just pray you'll be with those that protect us, watch over them, keep them safe. Help us to have wisdom tonight. We pray this in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Boland. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Culleton? Oop, I missed Vice Mayor Boland.
I'm here.
Councilmember Culleton.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Councilmember Jones?
Here.
Councilmember Rawlings?
Yeah.
And Mayor Lauder.
Here. Okay. Tonight we have a couple of proclamations. The first one is recognition of the distance between us by Reina Grande as the Book in Common for 2014-2015. And tonight we have Susan Serrano here from the Paradise Library to accept it, so you can come up after I read this. Whereas the town of Paradise values reading, reflection, and action in support of building a sense of community, strengthening literacy, and advancing the common good. And whereas the Book in Common's goal is to create a foundation for lifelong learning by understanding oneself and others, and to intellectually, critically, and emotionally reflect on one's experiences and roles in society. And whereas programs such as the Book in Common enhance the intellectual community, foster dialogue on important social issues, and value the diverse cultural perspectives found in contemporary society. And whereas California State University, Chico, the City of Chico, Butte Community College, Butte County Public Library, the City of Oroville, Chico Enterprise Record, Chico News and Review, and local citizens and book clubs around our county have selected the distance between us as the Book in Common. Now therefore, I, Scott Lauder, Mayor of the Town of Paradise, hereby recognize the distance between us by Reina Grande as the Book in Common for 2014-2015, and urge all citizens to read and reflect and take action in support of the common good of the community.
Well, on behalf of Brenda Kratz, who is spearheading the Book in Common for many years now, and she regrets that she wasn't able to make it tonight, but I will accept this on her behalf and on the Paradise branch. I will be the new branch manager starting the 13th, so I'm excited, and we're very honored that you're honoring us with the Book in Common proclamation, so thank you.
Does that mean Brenda's retiring? Or
No,
is she
Brenda's
moving on?
the Chico branch manager.
Oh, okay.
Sarah Van Treese is now the Oroville branch manager, and now Paradise has a full-time branch manager starting on the 13th, which is myself.
That's exciting news. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Congratulations. Okay, next we have a recognition of September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week, as requested by the Daughters of the American Revolution Golden Nugget Chapter, to commemorate the adoption of the United States Constitution. And tonight we have Ann Williams, Honorary Regent for the Gold Nugget Chapter of the DAR, and I will read the proclamation. Whereas Constitution Week is an American observance to commemorate the adoption of the United States Constitution that runs annually from September 17th to 23rd. And whereas Constitution Week was officially enacted on August 2nd, 1956 by President Dwight D. Eisenhower from a congressional resolution petitioned by the Daughters of the American Revolution. Its inception was officially declared by George W. Bush in September 2002. And whereas the purpose of the Observance Week is to promote study and education about the Constitution, which was originally adopted by the American Congress of the Confederation on September 17, 1787. Whereas the DAR, founded in 1890 and headquartered in Washington, D.C., is a nonprofit, non-political, volunteer women's service organization dedicated to promoting patriotism, preserving American history, and securing America's future through better education for children. And whereas the Gold Nugget chapter of the DAR, chartered in 1991, meets in Paradise and has members from Magalia, Chico, Lake Almanor, and Gridley, and several individuals who've moved out of state but continue as members. Now, therefore, I, Scott Lauder, Mayor of the Town of Paradise, commend the Daughters of the American Revolution for their ongoing efforts to promote study and education of our nation's Constitution and declare the week of September 17th to the 23rd as Constitution Week in the Town of Paradise. Thank you so much. Thank you. And please feel free to say a few words to the microphone.
I want to thank Mayor Scott Lauder and the City of Paradise, the Daughters of the American Revolution, the Golden Nugget chapter of the NSDAR. Would like to thank you for presenting us with the proclamation. Lynn Moore, our new regent, was not able to attend, but I'm willing to accept proclamation. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Okay, next we'll have a verbal update from Town Engineer Mark Maddox on the progress and schedule for construction of the Downtown Paradise Safety Project.
All right, good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Council. Construction for the Downtown Paradise Safety Project is progressing very well. We're well past the 50% mark for progress. As you can see, paving has gone down. Tonight will be our last night of paving. All concrete work is nearly complete. We're waiting on a couple of utility adjustments, and we expect those to be complete by the end of next week. Schedule moving forward, like I said, we'll be finishing paving tonight, raising iron for the rest of the week, probably adjusting the water utility lids to the new grade. In addition, next week we'll have the striping contractor mobilized, lay out the new striping, and finally lay down the permanent striping by the end of next week as well. Other items of work that will be remaining will be the signal modifications and GPS coordination. We expect that to be done by the end of the month, which will help traffic flow improve in the downtown. We did learn, however, the custom flashing beacon poles are experiencing a delay at the manufacturer level. These are flashing beacons that will be installed at the crosswalks here at Town Hall and the 4 locations in the downtown. They're pretty custom, black, tapered, 14-foot poles for these beacons and the solar panels. So it's a pretty typical delay with these items of work, but we wanted to keep council and the community informed that most of the project will be done, and especially look done, by the end of next week, but there will be fine-tuning adjustments throughout the month, and total project completion, we're hoping by mid-October with those poles coming in. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions on the construction so far. Thank you.
Yeah, Mark, on this, the synchronization of the signals, has that happened yet, or that's going to happen?
It has not happened yet, which is a good point to bring up, because right now we're still operating on fixed time intervals for both signals at Pearson and Elliott. And so with the GPS, when that does get installed, not next week, but likely the week after, the traffic flow will definitely improve. That coordination, we're ready with the timing to get those signals coordinated. So you have a green light at Pearson, that green light will be waiting for you at Elliott Road, and really change how the whole downtown flows.
Raising of the lids, is that going to cause some delays in the traffic?
It'll be done at night. All work in the road is done at night,
At
but
night, okay.
it won't be nearly to the impact as paving has. It'll be minor lane shifts here and there, but night work when really no one's on the road.
Looks great.
Thank you.
I like what I see.
Thanks.
There's noticeably quieter with the new paving. That was one of the comments that I heard this morning when much quieter with the new paving, so.
So, Mark, the holes, they've been rebored for the flags, for, you know, when we put the flags out on holidays, Memorial Day and all, they've been rebored and ready to be used?
Right, and yes, the holes have been installed for the Parade of Flags, and any holes that remain will be done by the striping contractor when they come in to do their sign installations. So I wouldn't say they're completely done, but most of them are.
Thank you.
Okay, very good, thank you. Any other questions from the? We'll move on to the consent calendar. One roll call vote will be taken for all items placed on the consent calendar. Do we have any cards?
Yes, I have a card on item 3E, the lease purchase, and on 3G, the lease of the Fire Station 83.
Okay, go ahead and.
First card on 3E is from Ward Habriel.
Hi there, Ward Habriel. Just got to bring this up because it says of a lease with option to purchase, and then there's a comma. You need two words there. Purchase a what? I mean, if the town wants to buy a marijuana field, you're going to have 1,000 people here speaking against this. If you want to buy an additional skating rink, we might be in favor of that. But you need two words here. Option to purchase, comma. Well, we're not buying commas. What are we buying? You know, if it's something good, I think we could garner a couple of hundred people in here and say, yeah, do this, council, please. It's a couple words left out.
I believe it is a lease purchase of 18 desktop computers and a laptop, batteries for IT and server upgrades, utilizing the Acela hosts, and equipping a truck that was donated Public Works with a snowplow, sander, and radio for full utilization. So thank you for pointing that out, and I'm sure the clerk won't miss that in the future.
It was in the agenda item.
It was in
just
the,
wasn't on
yeah,
the
it just
wording
wasn't on
the
that call out there.
That was just the title to the action.
To the title to the action, correct. So, okay, next
Next
one.
card is from Doreen Younger Barcroft.
Good evening. I'm Doreen Younger, and I'm the owner of the property at 6621 Clark Road. And the Paradise Ambulance Service went in 2 years ago to rent my property because they were over by the Feather River Hospital. And my building is a very excellent location for them. They're easy access, and I put in a lot of things, bathtubs and stoves and everything to make them a very comfortable and accessible place for the Paradise Ambulance Service. And so far to this date, I have not gotten everything back from their rent, which they told me that $1,500 a month would be way too much for them to spend, and what I charge is more affordable to them. So I'm requesting if we can keep them there at that location, since they always parked at Kmart anyway. So I would like to have the ambulance stay at 6621 Clark Road instead of moving to Wagstaff.
Thank you. Do you have any other cards? Anybody else in the audience?
That was the last card.
I'll accept a motion. Consent calendar.
All right, I move approval of the consent calendar.
A motion by Culleton, second by Rollins. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Vice Mayor Boland.
Aye.
Councilmember Culleton.
Aye.
Councilmember Jones.
Aye.
Councilmember Rawlings. Mayor Lauder.
Aye. Yeah, certainly. Yeah, if you want to comment.
You know, it's something that we can't, they're independent. They can decide where they stay or where they go. We can't tell them what to do. I feel for you, as someone that has offices and stuff, I understand. Yeah, and I appreciate you coming. I just don't want you to feel like you're leaving without being heard. We heard you, and that's tough. I mean, I understand, and I feel for you.
I just don't want another small business going vacant, because there's a lot of them around, and
Yeah, I know.
Okay, we have one public hearing tonight, so please take note of the public hearing procedure, and we'll move on to item 5A, conduct a public hearing to receive comment on the Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, known as CAPER, for the Community Development Block Grant Program, and to authorize the town manager to submit the CAPER to the Department of Housing and Urban Development. CAPER outlines the CDBG, Community Development Block Grant, accomplishments and expenditures, as well as providing an evaluation of the town's progress in meeting its community development goals and objectives. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mayor Lauder. This is just the annual report, the year-end report for the CDBG grant, the funds that we get for the community. Every year, we're required to do our year-end CAPER report, Consolidated Annual Performance Reporting. And basically, it was a small year. We have a very small amount that we get from the state, and so we've given some money to public services under our subrecipients, basically COVE, Catalyst, Youth for Change, Salvation Army, Work Training Center, and the Paradise Community Wellness Project, which is the garden at the school site. And we put some funding into our housing programs, which are very important and very well used within the community. And it also keeps some of our contractors working and our real estate folks. And we had some business assistance funding that we have not done anything with yet. There's not much to the report. That's about it. And we do require a public hearing on that.
Okay, so I'll now open the public hearing at 6:17. Do we have any cards?
There's no cards.
Okay, anybody in the public want to speak? Public hearing on the CAPER? Okay, and I'm closing the public hearing at 6:17 and 45 seconds. We do need a roll call vote, so
I'll move, we accept the report.
Second.
we have a motion by Bolin, second by Jones. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Vice Mayor Boland,
Aye.
Councilmember Culleton,
Aye.
Councilmember Jones,
Aye.
Councilmember Rawlings,
Aye.
and Mayor Lauder.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Next up is public communication. This is the time for members of the audience who have completed a request to address council card and given it to the clerk. Present items not on the agenda. Comments should be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes duration, and the town council is prohibited by state law from taking action on any item presented if it is not listed on the agenda. Do we have any cards tonight?
I have 3 cards. My first card is from Ward Habriel.
Thank you. Good evening again, Council. First, I want to follow up on something you did at a previous council meeting, and that is by proclamation deciding that October 25th was Arlen Hudson Make a Difference Day. And on behalf of that, I made a presentation to the Paradise Garden Club at the regular general membership meeting yesterday. They were somewhat excited, cautiously so I might say, to offer some kind of a project which has not yet been decided, but would like to, in fact, participate on October 25th for Arlen Hudson Make a Difference Day. Secondly, PID is providing these signs, yard signs, for people who have, in fact, been saving water. Great idea. It helps your neighbors know that you've done something well and promotes the new website, paradisesaveswater.com. I bring this here now because I think as town leaders, it would be important, number one, that you are in fact saving water, and number two, you'd go to PID and get a sign to brag about what you're doing. I think your neighbor should come to you and say, wow, what are you doing, Woody? What are you doing, Greg? How are you saving water? And you get to explain to them what you've done. Thank you.
Next card.
Next card is Susie Serrano.
Good evening, council members again. My name is Susie Serrano, Butte County Library Paradise Branch Manager, starting on the 13th. I want to personally invite the council members and any of the public to attend our centennial celebration. And we're starting with an author's night, and it's going to be October 9th at 7 p.m. And it's at the Paradise Library. We'll have many local authors with their works. You can actually go and ask questions, purchase their books, have refreshments. And on October 11th, which is Saturday, we're having our big celebration for our centennial. And we're really excited because the president of the Friends of the Library is dressing up as Emma Blackburn. So she's the first librarian in Paradise. And we're going to have historical displays and crafts for kids, drawings, and we're having a poster and essay contest as well. So I brought flyers, and I'll give them to Joanna if you're interested, but I just wanted to personally invite you. Thank you.
And next card?
My next card is from Ron and Joan Wolf.
I spoke last time concerning the walking path, and I'd like to report that the walking path is much cleaner now, and instead of over 300 piles of dog excrement, feces, we're now picking up like 4 or 5 piles, and that's from Neil Road up all the way over to Pearson. The one problem that we've had is the homeless people like our path, and but they also, I've had the experience where this one homeless man came up and he's, I was in my wheelchair, and he says, "Did you fight before you got in that wheelchair?" I said, "Before I got in the wheelchair? Yeah, I've had a couple fights." And he says, "Oh, have you got a couple dollars?" No, I don't carry money on me on the walking path. Well, you ought to. And he says, "Why don't you put a 20 up there on the front of your canopy, and that way you can fight again." Whoa, hold it. Hey, I'm 100% disabled guy. Get away from me. And I called the police, and I'd like to thank our police department. I haven't seen that man again, but I have seen other homeless people on the path. They haven't been as aggressive or panhandling, but I'd just like to address that problem that we're having. Thank you very much.
That was the
And
last card.
That's the last card. Anybody else in the audience that didn't have an opportunity to fill out a card? Okay, then we will close our public comment section and move on to item 7A. Consider on concurring with staff's recommendation of Mark Thomas and Company to perform engineering services for the Cypress realignment project, and 2, approving a professional services agreement with Mark Thomas and Company and authorize the town manager and town mayor to execute, and 3, authorizing the town manager to execute additional work orders up to 10% of the contract amount.
And this item will be presented by Mark Maddox, our town engineer.
Good evening, council, again. As mentioned before, we are presenting the Cypress Curve realignment project as the next phase. This was last brought to council upon executing agreement with Caltrans on this grant-funded project to receive our preliminary engineering funds. So this is the next stage in the project development and hiring a consultant to design the project. But first, some background. This is a historically dangerous stretch of road proven by collision data in the last 5 to 10 years. And the curve is not geometrically compliant with current standards. And so because of those reasons, we did receive a 2013 Highway Safety Improvement Program grant. This grant totals about $1.2 million, funded at 90% through this federal funding program. $200,000 is towards preliminary engineering, which includes the design of the project, going through the environmental process, and actually preparation of the bid documents. We are proposing to use a consultant for the design of this project because staff is managing 7 total grant-funded capital improvement projects at this time. The Cypress Curve realignment project is particularly challenging for roadway design and coordination needed as it pertains to environmental, right-of-way, and utilities clearances. Time is also of the essence for this project, in addition to our other grant-funded projects. Good performance and good delivery of these grants allows us to be attractive for receiving new grants moving forward. So while in-house staff is managing the other 6, we're proposing to provide this project as an opportunity for a consultant to work for the town, provide a deliverable, and move this project towards construction while we're facilitating the remaining 6. The scope of work for this contract includes project management, surveys and mapping, environmental studies and documentation. That includes obtaining National Environmental Policy Act and California Environmental Quality Act clearances, right-of-way and utilities coordination, project design, property owner coordination, and lastly, construction phase authorization, really getting the project authorized through the grant process to be constructed. So the consultant solicitation process has to follow very strict guidelines for federal aid. We have a process that includes advertising a formal request for proposals. We are required to evaluate those proposals that we receive and select a consultant. The next step is once that consultant is selected, we open their cost proposal and begin negotiation process. Cost is not off the bat allowed to be used as a selecting criteria. So that allows us to obtain the best consultant, most qualified, most experienced to do this type of work before we consider cost. With that said, we still considered cost and worked with our selected consultant. So to quickly summarize our process for this solicitation, we advertised June 16th through July 17th. We received 5 proposals from very good firms in Northern California. We formulated an evaluation committee, which included council member Jody Jones, myself, Dennis Schmidt of Butte County, who has experience as the previous town engineer on this project. When it was initially designed or the initial steps were taken to get this project on the books in 2002 and 2003. Yvonne Garcia with Butte County Association of Governments was also on this evaluation committee. Upon evaluation, the committee unanimously selected Mark Thomas and Company to proceed before we opened cost proposals. This proposal that we did receive from Mark Thomas and Company was the most complete, responsive proposal. They assembled an experienced team and they hired experienced sub-consultants, including L&L Surveying of Paradise and Environmental Service Associates, Tabor Consultants for geotechnical work required on the project, and Universal Field Services for right-of-way clearances that we need. The contract cost, when we did open proposals, we had an internal cost estimate on hand. We estimated this contract would be in the range of $173,000 to get us to construction. Typically, when we have a construction project, we budget 25% of that towards the preliminary engineering, which includes design and environmental. Our initial cost proposal opened by Mark Thomas was $204,000. We began and completed negotiations and came to $179,000 for these services. We had a little minor clarifications on the scope of work, made a few adjustments to get that cost down, and really to make sure it's well within our budget on preliminary engineering for the grant. Again, so with our grant budget of $200,000 and our contract cost of $179,000, we're comfortable with moving forward and getting this project ready for construction. Now, a quick little side note is the 4 remaining proposals that we received remain unopened as far as their costs go. We saw their proposals and their cost proposals remain sealed, and that's just part of the federal requirement. So technically, the third-ranked consultant could have blown us away with a better price, but we have to proceed per these federal requirements. So this is what staff is recommending for council tonight, are to authorize Mark Thomas and Company to proceed, and really the goal of this project is for them to return to us in 2016 with the project ready for construction. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your time and open up to any other questions.
Questions from the council?
I just think that's very interesting that we don't open the other one. I like it. I think that's a good one.
Strictly based on qualifications.
Yeah, I think that's very good. 2016, we talking at the beginning, like January, February? Is there a date in the 2016 we should be seeing this?
April 2016 is the target date for the item to be before you.
But we'll see
considering award-
preliminary
To see
Updates up to that point?
Yes, we can provide updates on this project as we hit major milestones, certainly. But we expect spring 2016, hopefully for a project ready for construction during the summer of 2016.
Yeah, Mark, didn't we, back when Dennis Schmidt was here in 2002 and 3, didn't we already acquire some of the right-of-ways necessary?
Yes, we have heard that right-of-way was acquired for the project, and we have records indicating that's true. We still have to evaluate the existing right-of-way and certify that it's 100% ready to go. So we have a budget in for right-of-way in case in case this consultant says we need a little bit more. We'll work with those property owners, work that design around. So
You guys estimated in-house that it was a $173,000 project, this piece, and then they've agreed to do it $179,000,
correct.
still within the money we're getting and all?
Correct. The total budget for preliminary engineering is $200,000. So we expect their contract, in addition to town staff time managing their contract, to fall within our total budget on the preliminary engineering phase.
And the only other question I had is, it said that, in the report, it said that, you know, this project is so big, we don't have enough staff, or we can't do it in-house, so we hire these folks. And part of what they would do then is, very first item, project management. They still working for us, right?
They're working
You
for
still
us.
have,
They're
you and
working
Matt
for
tell
us.
them what to do.
They're managing the details.
Okay.
I'll be the liaison between the consultant and Caltrans, who is administering our funding. But they're going to be managing the project, but keeping in touch.
Sure, go ahead.
I was on the committee that evaluated the proposals, and if you look at the chart that's on page 344, you can see that there's a very big gap between Mark Thomas and Company and their proposal was far and away better than all four of the other ones.
Sorry, I needed a new pen. Mine ran out of ink.
It'll be nice, because if we straighten that curve out, those logging trucks at 3:30 in the morning won't have to use their Jake brake to slow down. They'll be able to just zoom on through there.
Yep.
Thought I'd mention that.
Can't we put a sign up to ease up on the Jake brake in the residential?
If we got the CHP and DOT or whoever to park there at Scott's movie theater, because when they come down there in them logging trucks, they're doing way more than 45 miles an hour. Way more. And we could write tickets all day long, you know?
Captain Stonebreaker is here. We can talk to him about that. Our CHP pops into our meetings periodically. Okay. So we need a roll call vote on this. Anybody in the audience have anything they wanted to say about this? Did we have any cards?
No
I didn't
cards
see
on
any.
7A?
Tom Kelly, come forward, state your name for the record. Wait until you get to the microphone so everybody can see you and hear you.
Tom Kelly, Paradise resident. I asked that question because I'm not familiar with where Paradise, where this curve is and the scope of the work you're going to be doing.
You know where Cypress Acres Convalescent Home is? Forest Service Drive, where Station 35 is?
Up on Upper Clark.
Yeah, it's
You're going to widen the road.
Apple Tree Village, yeah, we're widening it, flattening it out, straightening it, cleaning things up so we can lessen the accidents.
I had
We're
no
hoping
idea
we have
what-
less cars in the ditch there during snow season too.
Right. The other thing is, good luck on getting the EIR done in 2 years. That's more than half the job. I mean, really, it's, I did one for Red Cross on Yuba City, 2 years. Did the one for the bridges, that was more than 2 years. And so the faster you get on it, but don't expect that it'll be ready in 2016, the way things are going through our government now. Thanks.
We have our crack staff on it, so.
Good.
Okay, anybody else need to comment? Carol Kirk?
Hi. You were talking about how they come speeding into town and they're braking too much. So it seems to me that if you straighten the curve, they're going to be going faster and they're going to have to brake even more to get to the city speed limit. So I don't understand that correlation.
They have to shift down
Now,
and drive slower to begin with.
Talking about logging trucks there.
I know, but if you straighten the curve,
Because they'll go faster, which is,
It's true.
They don't,
It's the
they
same
don't go the
problem.
speed limit anyway.
Yeah.
The biggest problem with that curve is that in the wintertime, when we have ice and rain and snow, people are in the ditch all the time. We've had at least 1, 2 fatalities there on that curve. So, there's reasons, we're going to take care of speeders at some point.
right? I was going to say, it sounds like the logging trucks might be a little bit bigger problem, so be thinking of that through there.
Thank you, Carol. Okay, anything else from the council? We just need a motion on this.
second.
Motion by Jones, second by Bolin. Roll call.
Vice Mayor Boland,
Aye.
Councilmember Culleton. Councilmember Jones,
Aye.
Councilmember Rawlings,
Aye.
and Mayor Lauder.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Item 7B, consider adopting Resolution 14-43, a resolution the Town Council of the Town of Paradise approving the plans and specifications for the Paradise Signal Upgrades Project and authorize advertisement for bids on the project.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Maddox.
And this important project will also be presented by Mark Maddox, our town engineer.
Rise.
Good evening, council, again, last time. All right, so tonight we are considering approval of the plans and specs for the Paradise Signal Upgrades Project. This project will help us with the numerous issues. First, during power outages, all of our traffic signals would be disabled, having no battery backups in place. Currently, emergency responders hitting a traffic signal at their direction, or if there is a red light, they have no means to control that signal phasing. In addition, pedestrians currently do not have a displayed time on how much time is left to cross a signalized intersection. So those are 3 issues that when we applied for a Highway Safety Improvement Program grant in 2013, why we received that grant, because we have shown that engineering countermeasures can improve these situations. So this project is $313,400 at 90% for our $282,000 grant. It proposes to retrofit all 15 of our town-owned signals to each include all of the following 4 items. Battery backup systems, so when power goes out, the signal remains operating for a given amount of time. Emergency vehicle preemption systems, allowing police and fire and ambulance to use an emitter that changes the traffic signal phasing to green from their direction, cutting down response time to emergencies, which is crucial. In addition to installing those pedestrian signal countdown heads that counts down the actual number of time that's left on their phase to cross the street from, on Wagstaff where we have a long crossing, it may read 20 seconds and count down to 0. So that type of information is really helpful for a safe crossing. And lastly, this project will include upgrades of all of our pedestrian push buttons to current ADA standards. Our engineer's estimate for this construction phase is $273,000, which is within our grant budget. If approved tonight, we will proceed with the following schedule. We will advertise and open bids in the month of October and bring this item back before council in November for an award of a contract. And we expect construction to take place between January and March of 2015. This project is primarily a signal upgrade, so there will be very minimal traffic control impacts, really kind of behind the scenes upgrades that will improve our signal operation throughout town. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your time and open up to any questions.
Question, battery backup, they last hours, days, weeks, months, years?
Hours.
Hours?
Yep.
And replacement, there's going to be a cost to replace those things periodically. Is that expensive that we need to consider also?
The actual batteries themselves shouldn't be too bad. I can't say I have the number off the top of my head, but these systems installed, when they are installed, will last us a very long time.
Will they have a solar backup?
No, it's an actual battery inside the cabinet that's installed.
Go ahead.
I just
Joy.
want to clarify that these are all the signals across town. The article that was in the Paradise Post seemed to indicate it was just Skyway.
No, actually, all signals in town, all 15, all town-owned signals. There is the Caltrans-owned signal at Pearson and Clark is not included in this project, but all 15 town-owned signals will be retrofitted to include those items. A few of them have, like Pearson and Recreation, has a battery backup already. So there's different scopes for each signal, but they'll all be brought up to that standard of having battery backup, emergency preemption, and the ADA upgrades for the signal heads, or the ADA upgrades for the buttons, and the signal head upgrades for the countdown.
So, okay, so if the the power goes out, does that mean the battery backup just makes it flash red?
It can operate it'll flash red for a longer amount of time.
Or
but
it could operate normally
It'll
on
first
the cycle.
operate normally.
But then the Skyway ones that are going to be synchronized with GSP and satellites or whatever, they won't work?
No, they'll still work. They'll have battery backup as well, but the GPS coordination could be bumped out, and we'd be returned to a default time like we have now.
It's my understanding the Clark-Pearson Caltrans intersection already has as I recall, it has the battery backup in place. We contacted Caltrans to ask them about adding the emitters to that system?
We have not contacted Caltrans on that. We usually, it adds a different level of complexity for the project design.
Well, no, I mean, if they can do it on their own dime.
Right,
Maybe Council Member Jones knows somebody there that can help us.
Let me ask you about these, the safety guys, the fireman's coming in this big red truck. And he got a little garage door opener he pushes and it changes the signals?
Well, it's an infrared emitter that's mounted to their vehicle, sometimes to a little light bar, and they do flip a switch of some sort. And
then what happens? Does it cycle then a yellow light, red light?
It cycles yellow light first to say if you're driving north on Skyway right now, and it's providing green time to Pearson. It'll turn yellow for Pearson just as it normally would, and then red, and then it'll provide green to Skyway.
I was just thinking if it was like immediate or it didn't do that normal process, if you had a lot of commute traffic or so, where people
Right.
are booking it, and suddenly, know.
Perhaps
slamming on the brakes.
Chief Hawks or Chief Tazari can, if you've had experience with those systems, you can illuminate us on how that works. I know we had discussion about which type we wanted to use. Okay. All right. What was my understanding when we looked at these at one time previously is when they turn on their siren, the emitter goes on.
That's possible.
And I don't, but I think it's
How far away?
Well,
I mean, they come out of Station 1, 81, you turn on the siren
but
there.
it's a line of sight thing.
It's an infrared emitter that is
Oh, okay,
definitely
okay.
dependent on line of sight.
So it's got to be able to see the signal to
Correct.
do it.
Okay, any cards on this item?
No cards?
Okay. Any other questions from the council? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
A motion that we accept the proposal as written.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Rollins, second by Culleton. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Vice Mayor Boland?
Aye.
Councilmember Culleton?
Aye.
Councilmember Jones?
Aye.
Councilmember Rawlings?
Aye.
And Mayor Lauder?
Aye, thank you. Okay, moving on to item 7C, consider adopting Resolution 14-44, resolution authorizing and approving borrowing of funds for fiscal year 2014-15, the issuance and sale of a 2014-2015 tax and revenue anticipation note, therefore, and approving certain other actions related thereto. Madam Manager?
This item will be presented by Gina Will, our Finance Director, Town Treasurer.
Good evening, Council. Thank you very much. So tonight, staff is seeking approval to move forward with our annual trans financing, so our tax revenue anticipation note. We actually sent proposals out to 8 regional banks, received 1 response from U.S. Bank. So for the 4th year in a row, they were the only bank to respond. We were seeking a proposal for a, I have to remind myself here, a $2.7 million tran. That's a little bit less than the prior year, which we were seeking $3 million. So again, the purpose of this short-term note, 10-month note, will be to serve as a cash flow bridge between when we receive our property tax payments. So the proposal submitted by U.S. Bank was very favorable for the town. The actual terms of the loan would be 1.35% for 10 months with very little closing costs at 0.1%. We had actually budgeted $25,000, just over $25,000 in interest. Based on these terms, we can save about $1,000 and we'll have the normal closing costs of it just over $8,000. So we're seeking approval to move forward with that loan.
Thank you, Gina. Any questions from the council on this item?
I do. Gina, we used to borrow money from some government. There was something a bunch of cities belonged to.
Leif? Leif.
Is that what it was?
It was
And then-
actually a consortium of various cities that you band together to issue a bond for short term. We're no longer qualifying for that program, but thankfully U.S. Bank is providing us terms that are very favorable and
Why don't we
and
qualify
very
for that?
comparable.
Because that thing, the economy messed everything up, so it wasn't a good deal.
Exactly.
But why do we no longer qualify for it?
Just based on our financial situation, the amount of cash reserves that we have aren't adequate to qualify for that. So
You have to be poorer than we are?
you have to be actually in a little bit better financial situation than we are to qualify
So we're
for
not in
that.
good enough financial shape to
Yes.
get that loan.
So U.S. Bank was the only one that actually responded to our TRAN request?
Correct.
Right. But as usual, the banks only want to loan money to people that don't. Do we have any cards on this item?
No cards on
Okay,
17.
anybody else in the audience? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion on item 7C, Resolution 14-44.
Second.
We have a motion by Jones, second by Boland. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Vice Mayor Boland,
Aye.
Councilmember Culleton,
Aye.
Councilmember Jones,
Aye.
Councilmember Rawlings,
Aye.
and Mayor Lauter.
Aye. Okay, moving on to item 7D, consider waiving the reading of entire ordinance 549 and approve reading by title only and introducing ordinance 549, an ordinance amending text regulations within the Paradise Municipal Code, Chapter 8.08, relating to recyclable solid waste. And if approved, it shall become unlawful to pick up recyclable material placed in town-owned containers or curbside, or placed curbside for collection by the town's franchised solid waste collector.
And Craig Baker, our Community Development Director, will present this item.
Thank you, Madam Manager. Good evening, Mayor Lauter, council members. As our mayor's just described, this item was placed on your agenda for you to consider introducing an ordinance amending the text regulations within the Paradise Municipal Code, Chapter 808, which relates to recyclable solid waste. During your last meeting of August 12th, this town council expressed concern regarding the unauthorized removal and collection of recyclable solid waste by private individuals from solid waste receptacles owned, placed, and maintained by the town of Paradise in various locations in town, Paradise Community Park, Paradise Memorial Trailway, etc. I'd like to make a small correction to the agenda summary. The recyclable solid waste collection bins that are located in Paradise Recreation and Park District facilities are actually owned and maintained by that agency. Were acquired by PRPD through a grant that was very similar to the one that provided the waste receptacles that we have. At the conclusion of the discussion during the last meeting, council directed staff to return with text amendments for council consideration to address the issue of removal of recyclable solid waste from receptacles in town. To discuss this issue, when you look at the current form of our solid waste collection regulations, which again is Chapter 808 in the Paradise Municipal Code, those regulations provide that once placed in containers, solid waste containers, or placed at curbside, ownership of the solid waste
transfers directly from the customer to the solid waste franchisee, which in our case is Northern Recycling and Waste Systems. However, a subsequent section in that chapter that contains a listing of all the activities that are considered to be unlawful in that chapter, in those regulations, contains a listing of these activities and does not contain a provision that specifically declares that removal of recyclable materials from town-owned solid waste facilities or containers not placed at curbside is unlawful. Therefore, staff is recommending that this council adopt a text amendment to address this issue. Your agenda summary was developed a week ago or so, and since that time, staff has had additional discussions regarding this issue. The ordinance that's attached to your agenda summary contains a very minor text amendment that really was only designed to address town-owned solid waste receptacles for recyclable materials. Our subsequent staff discussions have resulted in the generation of a memo by your town attorney that's been provided to you at the dais, recommending an additional text amendment to section 808.210 that would add a subsection 10. And that language would essentially function as a blanket prohibition against the removal of any recyclable materials from any solid waste collection bin without the consent of the owner of the property. And that language would read, it would be unlawful for anyone other than a person authorized by the property owner to remove or otherwise interfere with recyclable materials which have been placed in a solid waste disposal container. I think your staff, in retrospect, would like to recommend the addition of this language as well as the language that currently appears as shaded text in the ordinance that's attached to this council agenda summary, and it is hoped that that will again function as a blanket prohibition and address any concerns regarding recyclable materials from solid waste bins by unauthorized persons. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. That kind of concludes my presentation.
Clarifying question.
Sure.
So the new language proposed by Dwight would include the receptacles owned by the Parks and Rec District?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And school district.
Anyone else?
Yeah, school
anyone
district
else.
or.
So,
Your neighbor, yeah,
so our
Safeway,
recommendation
all the stores.
is that this evening our recommendation is to waive the first reading of Town Ordinance 549 and introduce the ordinance. And no public hearing is required for this action.
Okay, all right. And to clarify, perhaps because Councilman Colleton and I are pretty familiar with our solid waste franchise and our rates, and to protect the revenue stream that goes to our solid waste and recycling franchise, Northern Recycling and Waste Services, because that money underwrites, built in to underwrite the rates that we receive. So as people steal recyclables, that affects the rates that they charge. And so we're doing this to protect all the citizens from theft, and it's not a insignificant amount that's being.
No, well put.
Thank you. Do we have any cards on this item?
I have one card from Ward Habriel.
Thank you. Obviously, I would be in favor of this as a good move, something that we probably could have thought of 8 years ago at original contracting. My experience in the Bay Area and the numerous counties and cities that we worked with, this is the kind of language that has been in there for many years. It does protect the hauler. And in fact, in some instances, it provides to cover all of the cost of the service to pick up a blue can full of recyclables. But it goes beyond that. In fact, some of the languages are even stricter than what you're proposing now, so that there's no way that you can remove CRV containers from any container that has been put out for their pickup. It is not that big a deal. We don't have that much, but there's enough offset, in my opinion, after talking to Jennifer, I think you have too, that there's more there that can be garnered by them of value, which helps all of us by keeping our rates low. If we don't do that, the possibility of them not garnering as much revenue from that means a rate increase to us. The other problem is, how do we police it? And I think that anybody that's a public official or concerned about it has the right to say something, to say, hey, kid, get your hands out of there. You can't do that. It happens quite a bit. I don't think we're near as bad as Chico. And at CSU Chico, where they still think they're one of the greenest campuses, theft of CRVs from garbage cans, not the recycle bins, is one of the highest areas of missing value for them. Shame on the students that don't put CRV in the recycle bin instead of putting it in garbage. But the people that show up down at the recycle centers on their bicycle, they get those CRV containers out of the garbage can on campus. I've done 2 surveys there, and they think nobody's ever going to stop them. But we're making a right move here with this resolution. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you, Ward. The other thing that it also affects us is it draws down our rate of diversion, as we call it, and our diversion rate of recyclables is the highest in the county, and we have really good numbers. But as people poach recyclables out, that also can drag our numbers down, especially if it's recycled outside of outside of the county or outside of the town limits. Somebody takes it to Chico or someplace else to recycle it, then we don't get credit for those items being recycled. Okay, any comments from the council?
Yeah, one thing is, when we negotiated the single hauler and brought recycling to the town of Paradise, the old way we had it with multiple haulers is all we set was the minimum rate they could charge. We had no control over what they could set their rates at. In the case of waste management, they give you a $15 rate, and then they added a fuel surcharge, and they added an environmental surcharge, et cetera, et cetera. This contract with our current hauler, one of the things we did was we've established the formula and the rate. They can't raise the rates. There's a very complicated, there's only a couple of pass-throughs that are allowed in there. And the big thing on this is that, just like the fellow was talking about the homeless and the panhandlers on the walking trail, you know, we have, the garbage company can show you photos. There's about 4 or 5 people that are going through your blue cans at the curb in the mornings before you get up. There's one fellow in town that lives in his truck, parks at the Safeway parking lot, sleeps in his truck, stole the garbage cans from Paradise High School, collects the recyclables out of all of the things every evening, can't cash them in because you have to give ID and different things. So he's gotten very inventive. Uses a Wi-Fi. I mean, we got some people that this is their livelihood. I mean, this is their game. This is what they're doing. And the blue cans that we put around that the town owns, we had a grant that Jennifer Arbuckle got through NRWS. And we have an agreement with Cove, California Vocations, and those folks, they go collect all those, and that's a revenue stream for them. Plus, it gives these people with challenges, it gives them a work experience, a livelihood. And they also, Parks and Rec, they got a grant, and all of their containers in all of the parks that PRPD owns are also contracted with Cove. And, you know, talking to the Cove people, they've lost huge amounts of revenues because of this one individual in particular who told me, that the director of the Parks and Rec Department told him he knew he was doing it and gave him permission. So I talked to Mike Trinka, and he says that's absolutely not true. And what Mike asked for is that if we had language like this to where it would be illegal, because that then they would run this guy off or at least be able to call the police, and then the police would be able to do something about it. Because right now they can't. There's nothing. You can take them and nobody can stop you. So that's why we're doing this.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion.
Move adoption of this item as amended. Waive the first reading.
Introduction.
Second it. Oh, somebody already got it.
Okay, we have a motion by Culleton. Who was the second?
Councilmember.
Okay, seconded by Councilman Rollins. Roll call.
Vice Mayor Boland.
Aye.
Councilmember Culleton.
Aye.
Councilmember Jones.
Aye.
Councilmember Rawlings.
Aye.
And Mayor Lauder.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, review the operating and capital budget status update report and approve the recommended general fund and gas tax budget adjustments.
Thank you. As directed by council, we're to update council monthly at the council meetings on our budget and revenues. We skipped last month, but we are back, and Gina will present that report this evening.
Thank you. Good evening again, council. So the budget for 2014-15 was adopted by council on June 25th, 2014. So each month, your staff is continuing to analyze and look for any important or major trends and changes in revenue or expenditures. So this report obviously is staff's recommendation for any budget changes. So related to our general fund transactions are actually recorded on a modified accrual basis, and what that means is that we are still in the process of recording transaction for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2014. So you will notice that primarily a lot of the information that I will provide to you is really finalizing our June 30th, 2014 activity. Much of our 2014-15 activity really hasn't started yet. So in relation to how we actually concluded the fiscal year, we had expected at budget time to have revenues exceed expenditures by about $402,000. That number actually looks to be improving a bit to about $450,000. However, I would just want to caution council again that due to the pending RDA loan between the town and the former RDA, we're still about $108,000 short of truly obtaining a reserve that's cash related, a true cash reserve. So as we know, and as we've been talking about for the last several years, our general fund budget in particular is very strongly based on property values. So 71% of our general fund revenues are driven by property values. And you can see those items, property taxes, motor vehicle in lieu, and a portion of sales taxes all related to property values. And because property values have diminished so extensively because of the recession, it's going to take us a while to climb back out of that hole. So this illustrates again that while we did have some good news for 13-14, actually for the first time in 5 years, we saw some growth in property tax revenues to the tune of 2.88%. So overall, when you look at property taxes, motor vehicle in lieu, and sales tax, we had growth of 2.97%, which was a little over 200,000. We still have quite a ways before we reach pre-recession levels, probably another 3 to 4 years before we're back to where we were in 2008-9. So motor vehicle in lieu finalized exactly as we had expected for 2013-14 with a little over 1% growth. We did receive some good news already for the 2014-15 budget, however. We just received a one-time audit adjustment from Butte County. The state actually came in and audited their books related to motor vehicle in lieu and discovered that the county had not released some funds to us that they should have. So we just received a check for $159,000. We're recommending that we use $55,000 of that to cover the materials for rebuilding the roof on Fire Station 81. Also, we'd like to use $20,000 to repair the ladder truck that's been in the shop for a while. We'd actually like to put that in operation and get those repairs completed. And for now, your staff is recommending that we set the rest aside and not budget that, set it aside for contingency. As we've been, cutting back for 6 years, have not been doing the deferred maintenance and repairs that we need to on many of our equipment and facilities. We just expect that there could be emergency pending around the corner, and we'd like to set some funds aside for that purpose. Sales taxes, franchise fees, and TOT sales taxes for 13-14 grew just over 4%, which was nice. This last quarter was relatively flat, however. So I may be bringing back a budget adjustments once we start seeing the initial receipts for 2014-15. And related to franchise fees, we had growth of about 3.2% for the fiscal year. However, TOT, which is our transient occupancy taxes, were down about 4.3%. The fire department, so the summer of 2014 was and continues to be very busy for our fire department and for fire personnel across the state. CAL FIRE actually borrowed a bit of our fire equipment that actually will return some rents to the town at just over $27,000. We had expected about $20,000, so thankfully we're benefiting a little bit by that usage. Personnel services contract for CAL FIRE completed its first full fiscal year in 2013-14. We were very pleased with the results from both a financial perspective and an operations perspective. For this 2014-15 fiscal year, the town has again asked CAL FIRE to come up with $200,000 in savings to help us balance our budget. So again, just wanting council to understand that that may require some reduced staffing at certain times of the year in order to achieve that savings, and that we would truly need some additional funding to maintain that level of service for future years. So this is our proposed budget adjustment for 2014-15. Again, shows what we expect, how we expect 2013-14 to end, with about $450,000 added to our ending fund balance, and this latest proposed budget for 2014-15 adds about $92,000 to the ending fund balance for now. Related to gas tax and streets, we actually, again, received some happy news related to 2014-15. The state amended its highway user and gas tax user fees estimates, and those revised estimates will provide us with nearly $98,000 more in revenues that we can use for street projects. So very good news for us. Mark has big plans to leverage a lot of that ending fund balance with future grant projects. So we'll be working with Mark to make sure that we're setting aside the appropriate amounts to leverage those grants, and also to do any small projects that we can. So with that, may I answer any questions?
When the county mistakes are made and they don't give us the money, we have any way of knowing that internally, or is that just purely us accepting what they hand us?
It's pretty tough. I've gone down and spent some times with their auditor controller and gone through their books and understanding their formulas and calculations, but truly I'd have to spend more time there on a very regular basis to be able to catch this. The audit adjustment that they found actually dated back to 2008-9 also. So I would have had to go back several years to understand what that adjustment was truly related to.
So their auditor found it? Because they have to get audited as well by independent auditors.
But the state auditor found it at the county level.
Correct, yes. So the state came in and audited and found this correction.
Who is the auditor controller now of Butte County?
David Hauser is Butte County's auditor controller currently.
Is that embarrassing to them that happened?
I imagine it is. I spoke to them a little bit about it, and obviously.
Did any other cities find that they were shorted?
Not that I'm aware of.
The same with the state, that we got that extra money that through the audit, we found that last slide you showed us?
I'm not sure.
98,000?
No, that was just a revised estimate of, so periodically the state revises their estimates related to various revenue streams.
Oh, for what they take in?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Or don't look a gift horse in the mouth. We're just going to go ahead and
Get
take
interest on that money since they,
And I don't either, but yeah, I mean, we lost that money for that period of time.
We
and-
did get a small amount of interest related to that money, but obviously life interest right now is the basis of that. It's, less than 0.5% at this point, so it was very negligible.
And our budget would have sucked it up, a few years ago. Just having it now when we really need it is probably a good thing.
So at $900 apiece, we could buy some of those new cameras for the.
We could. That
I
is
just
certainly.
throw
yeah.
that out there as a suggestion.
And that will be an item that will be coming forward.
Yeah, I mean,
shortly. We
that's
have
an
so many
important deal.
deferred items out there that
Those,
it's
those things, we bought those a few years ago, and
Best investment we ever made for the
yeah, and the
police
new
department.
technology that's out, and those things are wearing out. And like, I'm telling you what, yeah, those things were,
There's a whole lot of cities that would like to be
Lifesaver.
as far ahead
we're,
on that as
we're
we are.
currently researching some
yeah, and I'm going to go out to,
options
I'm going
related
out
to
to
that.
Giving Community of Paradise and look for some grant monies from Rotary, from Community House, from Quota, from anybody that's got a little, couple dollars. We'll take whatever we can get to put new.
Every little bit helps. Thanks.
Oh. We do need a roll call vote on this item, it says, so I'll entertain a motion if there's,
I'll move approval.
Second?
we have a motion by Jones, second by Culleton. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Boland,
Aye.
Councilmember Culleton,
Aye.
Councilmember Jones. Aye. Councilmember Rawlings,
Aye.
and Mayor Lauter.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, moving on to council communications. Consider authorizing a letter of support to be signed by all council members in support of the League of Cities position encouraging the governor to take action relating to illegal marijuana growth throughout California. The resolution was presented at the September 2014 League of California Cities Conference and approved, I think, nearly unanimously.
One delegate who voted no.
I think he was the delegate that owns the marijuana collective in Sebastopol, yeah.
The resolution actually had nothing to do with marijuana collectives, though. It calls upon the governor to convene a summit about illegal marijuana grows on public lands, which really does affect Paradise because we're so close to the forests up here. And I personally know people who have come across them just walking the flumes.
And it was to address the theft of water, the diversion of water, and certainly during this drought, the number of problems that were reported where an illegal grow tapped into a tank that belonged to a small school district and drained the entire tank for their marijuana grow, and the school had no water out in an urban area, and then the pollution and the damage to our fisheries and wildlife is huge. So we're asking the governor to call a summit and get all the heads together to see what we can do about it.
Town of Paradise did vote yes at the League of California Cities Conference, but I think it's important that we all add our name to the list of cities that are actually calling upon the governor to do.
This was originally brought forth by the Redwood Empire Division of the League of Cities, which is, all up in the Emerald Triangle, up to Crescent City, Eureka, Arcata, Lakeport, Ukiah, all up and down the Redwood Empire. Okay, I'll entertain a motion on that, or we just need considered. Anybody in the audience want to speak about this? Okay. Ready? So,
I'll move approval.
Second.
second. I think we can just do this voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we will draft up a letter and for each member of the, all the council can sign it. Thank you. Next is council oral reports on representation on committees and commissions. Who would like to start tonight? Mr. Bo.
Nothing on committees or commissions, but the Fire Station 81 is where we poured concrete on that front area last Friday. Matt Thompson poured it for us. We had Tim Price and his guys form it up. It's neat to see different people get involved and step up. That's getting to be a real fun part of this project.
working on the roof. We'll be having trusses in 2.5 weeks. We got a Saturday, I think it's the 27th is a Saturday, I believe. Trusses will be there, and we'll be rolling trusses and trying to get a lot of other contractors involved, and they're happy to join us. So, going well.
Hey, Mayor Lauder, I did direct Tony Lindsay to give an update tonight on that project, and he brought a few slides with pictures. If you want him to do that now, we can. If not, we can delay it.
Yeah, please, go ahead, Tony, come on up, and we'll dovetail right into that. Yeah, I noticed Matt Thompson's old pickup out there in front when the cement truck was there, and they were working on that.
Such a great project.
Mayor?
Those of you who don't know, this is Tony Lindsay, our chief building official and fire marshal.
Thank you. The fire station project, it appears now that we are right on target for the budget. Schedule, where it's aggressive and we're keeping pace. Community Workday is scheduled for the 27th of September. We'll be rolling trusses, as Greg had mentioned, that day, and there'll be a lot of activity going on. Structural steel, the bottom of the columns have been completed, and much of the work provided by Rob Cohn and welder Chris. Also, the fire crew has helped out, and the front entry, the concrete and the footings, Tim Price formed. Matt Thompson's crew came in and poured the concrete, and concrete was donated by Matthews, so it's really good. AKB has been a great partner. Sean Shingler has been a fantastic administrator. AKB's boots on the ground to Yash and John Wilf have been giving great direction, and the firemen, led by Matt Pallade, have been willing partners and jumped in whenever we needed something accomplished. And with that, if I have any questions.
And I did want to make one comment too. So they fixed the walkway in front of the fire station as well, not just the roof, because they had the donated concrete and it was all chipped up and it was tripping hazards, and they fixed that as well.
Correct, and we had to tear that up to pour footing, so they just went a little further and replaced the whole walk.
Do you have to bring ADA compliance up with this kind of a?
Repair maintenance, this type of issue, which is great. We fixed the front walk and made it comply.
I mean, but if it was a private project and we did $50,000 worth of improvements, wouldn't we have to?
It triggers it, and we could, easily be a hardship for the including the walk, the entry. We made the entry.
Yeah, so we made those improvements.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you to everybody in the community, AKB and Matthews, Ready Mix, and Matt Thompson Construction, Rob Cohn, and everybody for working on this. And hopefully we'll culminate it on our Arlen Hudson Make a Difference Day in October.
And if any of the students that are here for your government class, if you want to get involved in volunteerism in the town of Paradise, show up on the 27th. Maybe somebody will give you something to do. Pardon me?
No rain.
Get the roof covered.
Oh, no rain.
Okay, anything else, Mr. Bowen? Okay. Who wants to jump in next?
I'll go ahead since they were going this way.
Yeah.
We all just attended the League of California Cities down in Los Angeles, the annual meeting, and I had the privilege of presiding over two presentations that came before the League of Cities. One of them was sustainability, how California cities are leading the world, and the other one was the Beverly Hills Customer Service Initiative. And it was quite a privilege to be able to preside over those and act as the moderator for those two presentations. And last meeting that we had, I was appointed to the rewrite committee for the Employee Relations Policy Committee. And today I received an email that we've got 2 more teleconferences, and our policies will be rewritten, and hopefully they'll be ready for review at the June meeting. And that's, there was one more. Okay, that's all I have for right now.
Well, if you think of something on Mr. Culleton?
I attended a BCAG meeting and the Air Quality Management District meeting last month. And, we didn't do too much there. The new wood stove replacement round 2 has just been approved. You can go to the Air Quality Management District. It might be on our website. If it's not, it should be soon. Anyway, you can apply for that. It's if you have a wood stove, there's a grant money available, I think up to $1,700. I'm not actually, it varies depending on your income. They'll pay to upgrade your wood stove to either natural gas or a clean burning wood stove or something, for air quality. And so that's available now, just was released 2 days ago. Also attended the annual conference. I attended a couple of meetings on social media and stuff, and one of the things that we're always plagued with as a council is whenever there's important issues, that we want the citizens of the community to know about, we're required by law to put a notice in a newspaper of public record or something like the general circulation. So we put a notice in the Paradise Post, and it's always a legal notice. And the essence of this one seminar that I attended was if you took a Nike ad for Nike shoes, and if you listed it the same way we list a public hearing meeting in our local newspaper, nobody would buy the shoe because they wouldn't even be able to see it, let alone read it. And the city of Fremont, what they've done is they come out almost with a display ad. 5-story building is being proposed. We want your opinion, date and time, as well as some contacts, Facebook, webpage, and phone number. So it was one of the things that they're moving. Some of the cities are moving, taking advantage of social media. We're not required by law to put a legal ad in. We can put some other kind of ad. They're going to charge me money no matter what. So to put the ad in a newspaper so that all 200 people can read it. Sorry, Trevor. While I was at the annual conference, I got a phone call, which has nothing to do with any committees or anything I'm on, but I had entered a local contest at KHSL Channel 12 for Labor Day, and I got a phone call in the middle of a meeting saying I won this contest, and so I guess apparently I won a whole bunch of prizes, and I'm going to go to Hawaii, which I've never been to Hawaii.
Just rub it in, Woody.
But I haven't got the prize yet, so that's the other side of that story. Anyway, other than that, things are moving along good. Days of Living History, Gold Nugget Museum, for 20 years has been going on Saturday and Sunday, this Saturday and Sunday at the Gold Nugget Museum. I'll be emceeing there on Sunday, and that is a great fundraiser, a great community event. Hope everybody shows up. And
Is there a local bank with a stagecoach that's making a presentation there?
you know what? Yeah, in one of my philanthropic endeavors, I try to raise money for nonprofits. One of them is the Boys and Girls Club. One of them is the Gold Nugget Museum. And so I applied for a grant from Wells Fargo and awarded a $1,000 grant to the Gold Nugget Museum. We have computers that are running Windows. They're really old. And so we need to replace our computers. And also, they're going to, $500 of that will go to sponsor the Cowboy Show and music gathering November 15th, featuring Waddy Mitchell from Elko, Nevada, and our own Sourdough Slim and Robert Anderson. Enough plugs for me. All you in television land, tune in, call me up, and I'll tell you when and where and sell you a ticket.
Thank you, Mr. Culleton. Mrs. Jones.
I attended the Commercial Blight Committee meeting earlier this week. We have, I think, 3 local business people on the committee, as well as Councilmember Rollins and myself. We had a very good meeting, and I think we'll make some fairly quick progress with bringing an ordinance back to the council. I also went to the League of Cities Conference in LA, and I did want to mention that 4 of us went, but we all paid our own way, so we wouldn't impact the town's budget. I did pick up a few really interesting things there. One of the presentations I went to was a program called America in Bloom, which is an organization that helps towns improve their image and the way that their town looks. And I think it could fit in with Arlen Hudson Make a Difference Day, but continue on that tradition here in Paradise. So I brought that back to Lauren. I'm excited about that. I also got a pretty good tip on another local jurisdiction that did a sewer project very similar to what we're contemplating. Their project was a $70 million project, so Lauren and I are going to follow up and find out where they got their money.
I contacted them today, just so you know. I had a brief conversation, so we're going to be talking to them soon.
Okay, Mr. Culleton, go ahead.
I thought of something else that I forgot to say. On September 30th, the town council is presenting a public forum. We're inviting all the public to come at 2 different times on September 30th and also on October 11th, I believe, on a Saturday. So we're having an afternoon meeting and an evening meeting on the 30th, and then on a Saturday it'd be in the morning. And that's so we can show you our books, show you our budget, and talk to you about this Measure C that'll be on the ballot, and just present facts about it and answer questions. We'll have all of our staff here for you to ask questions on. We'd like to see 100 people or more fill this room up on those different dates. Thanks.
And also to find out what the community's priorities are
it's for us. We want to know what is important
what the
to you.
community wants to see done. Mr. Rollins, you had something else you wanted to add?
Well, that's quite all right. Now, Jody covered it very well. Councilman Jones covered it very well. And that's the Blight Committee meeting we had yesterday. And we're both very happy to be on that and moving our town forward and looking for ways to attract people to Paradise, businesses to Paradise, and just make our town a place desirable for everybody to come and live and work in.
Great, thank you, John. A couple of things. First, let's start off this morning. Town management staff, Manager Gill, and our finance director, Gina Will, and Mark Maddox, and I attended the Paradise Board of Realtors meeting, and Lauren, the staff did a presentation on the state of the town, and this is an information program. They kept it pretty quick, half an hour long, so if you are a member of a organization or group that would like a presentation, contact the town manager's office. We're able to make it longer or shorter, depending on what you need, and answer questions on the finances of the town, where we are, various projects, our capital projects, and our staffing, and just take general questions. We have scheduled with the Chamber of Commerce, various organizations. Yeah, I think next week we're doing a presentation with the Chamber of Commerce. So anyway, it's out there and available if you're interested. And I also attended the league conference. Attended a number of really good seminars. One was on receivership, and I met a representative from the company that's our receiver, and we also heard some horror stories of things that can go wrong. So some of the pitfalls. So and then heard from City of Riverside, their former city attorney, who's now with the county of Riverside, and they've been very aggressive in using receivership, and that's what we've done with what we call the Pink Motel or the Skyway Lodge, and some of the things that have worked well. And then, like I say, I heard some horror stories of things that went wrong when the wrong receiver was selected, and when the courts didn't get the proper guidance, I think, from the receiver and the advocate. So that was really good. I have some good ideas to give to Dwight about that. I attended a seminar on social media, which was very interesting, and I've passed on the PowerPoint and some of the background material to our HR manager, Crystal Peters, and to the town manager about using Facebook and being careful about about using Facebook and having policies for the staff, but also how it can be, you can make some mistakes using it for doing background checks or looking up something on somebody that you really don't want to go there as a public agency. We have to be careful about. So that was very good. City of Chico was recognized at the Helen Putnam Awards ceremony as one of about 10 Helen Putnam Awards cities for their Team Chico for economic development. So Randall Stone was there to accept for the city of Chico. So that was nice to see our friends recognized. And then we also found at the expo, there's always some interesting products and services there. And Woody and I found a eco-friendly absorbent material that can be used for cleaning up spills. And that was interesting. And then some on stuff, I'm going to get to Paul on the LED lighting retrofit. So as we change lights out in the parks and various places where we own our light fixtures, that it can save us some money and labor in doing that, and it saves us some energy costs. So lots of interesting things, lots of good contacts, and the American Bloom program that Councilwoman Jones spotted. I also talked to them, and it's very big on the East Coast. They're just kind of moving into California. The city of Aurora Grande is one of the cities that's doing it in California. So that'll be exciting. So anyway, it was a great conference, and it was nice. We were at the Staples Center area with the convention center in LA Live, and they've really upgraded that area in downtown LA. It was a pleasant surprise. I hadn't been there for about 6 years. So that's what I have. Anything from you, Madam Manager?
Actually, we just have our report from the Community Development Director, Craig Baker, on our recent projects.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll give you a brief rundown. Most of the projects that I've been reporting on are progressing nicely. As I'm going through this relatively short list, feel free to stop me if you have any questions. And I have another item I'd like to elaborate on just a little when I'm done with this. The Second Dollar General Store on Clark Road, framing inspections were conducted this week, and the store is still planned for opening in November of this year. Haven't heard from Safeway of late. We're still waiting for groundwater monitoring and soil percolation information and data. Big Five Sporting Goods is progressing well at Skyway and Maxwell. Street frontage improvements were completed this week, and the store is still planned for opening this month, was the last I've heard. Nothing to report on Egg Roll Express yet. That's required to be demolished by October 22nd. Vacant buildings at Skyway. Nothing new, although you can see construction fencing's been placed around the site. That's required to be demolished.
I do have an update on that one, Craig.
Okay. Well, feel free. Go ahead.
We met with the owners and their representative. They came in, and they're having some issues with PG&E. So what PG&E is scheduled out a little further for them. So we will be working with them and giving them a little bit of an extension. They are planning on demolishing the buildings. They're waiting for PG&E.
Okay. Nothing new to report on Skyway Lodge, although as I understand it from our town attorney, the court has received bids from up to 3 different parties, and the court, I guess that was this morning, continued the proceedings for 2 weeks.
Yes, it was continued for 2 weeks to weigh whether or not other bidder who sent something on email last night without much information.
Okay, thank you. Northern Recycling and Waste Systems is still planning to construct a 3,420 square foot used oil collection facility, and construction permit applications and plans were submitted last week for that facility. This morning I executed some Department of Motor Vehicles paperwork for a new automobile sales business planned for the former site of John Hare Auto Sales, which was located at Skyway and Wagstaff. And the only other item that I have, I thought I've been asked to elaborate a little bit on our Blight Ad Hoc Committee. We met yesterday, was our first meeting, passed out some materials for the committee members to absorb, kind of elaborated, established some objectives, and as has been explained, the purpose of this committee is to develop municipal code amendments for council consideration to give the town some additional tools, help us better address blighted properties in the community.
Especially before they become severely dilapidated, right?
Sure, and even if, in either case. But sure, these regulations have the potential for us to address these issues before they reach some of the advanced stages of dilapidation.
Point of no return.
Right.
Are you talking commercial, residential, or both?
Both.
At this point in time, the objective is both, right? Not use specific and not zoning specific. The committee is made up of 2 council members, Jones and Rawlings, town manager, town attorney, community development director, 3 members of the business community, one of which is a chamber member. Our next meeting is scheduled for September 15th. Hopefully then we can start getting down to discussing some specific language that will establish clear objectives and get us pointed in the direction that where I hope to be in several weeks anyway.
Craig, I had a question. How are we doing on, and I know there's been a little uptick in building and construction. How are we doing on plan check turnaround times, and are we meeting the goals that the town has previously set?
The plan check is longer than it used to be back in the day. And correct me if I'm wrong, Tony, if you're still here, I think we're about 5 or 6 weeks, depending on the project. Oh, good.
Okay, so we're making progress there.
Good. 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 Well, that's good news.
Okay, well, that's good. I want to make sure that we're, if we see a need for additional help or contracting out so that we don't hold up projects, because that's always been a goal of this council, is to keep things moving and be the most business-friendly, contractor-friendly, developer-friendly community.
Project-friendly. We are
Project-friendly.
absolutely that.
Yes.
And our help with Rick Trent has been helping with that. He's our code enforcement officer. He's also has been a building official, so he's been helping out Tony when Tony gets behind. So the 2 of them have been working together. The council approved a few additional hours for Rick to do that. So that's been going very well.
Greg, if you don't know now, maybe next month, what's happening with Wendy's? What's happening with Walmart?
Wendy's, I communicated with the owner of Wendy's a couple, 3 weeks ago, perhaps. He emailed back to me, indicated that he'd be getting in touch with us.
Good.
No, that's good.
That's better than we've had for a while. With
Right.
Well, right. Frankly, we invited him to lunch up here, and unfortunately, we won't be able to
There
go
was
to
just no
Wendy's.
place to go.
Does he only go out to Wendy's? Is it like when I invite
Yeah.
a Coke rep to town, I got to find a place that serves Coke?
Yeah. What about Walmart?
Haven't heard anything. I haven't personally heard anything.
And I understand we have a card on this item.
Yes, I have a card from Ward Habriel.
Okay.
Thanks. I guess I'd start with a sort of a one-handed applause for the ad hoc progress about blight. The last time I consulted with Craig, he said, unfortunately, blight per se is not necessarily a code violation in this town. And that's why we need to look at some kind of language changes. It's been about 2 years. I turned in a couple of pages with over a dozen signatures from ordinary citizens saying, this is pretty ugly in my neighborhood, what are we doing about it? Over 9 years of complaints on the pink monstrosity, 6 years of complaints on that property 1 block off of Valley View, and on and on and on. It does affect our town, and it does affect property values, of which on the chart is 46% of how we determine what kinds of funds, revenue is coming into our budget. I don't want to pay more taxes, but if you would improve the neighborhood and make my property value go up, and the assessor said, hey, everything is worth more, you got to pay more, everybody else would too. And it's worth something revenue-wise to the town to do that. But I question, how about some public members on the ad hoc committee?
We have 3 public members.
Business members? Council members?
Business is public, they're public people.
Three business owners, yes.
I see, okay, business.
You mean just a person that doesn't own a business?
Yeah, there's a lot more of us than there are the people that own businesses. I mean, I get your point. There's a whole lot of people that are just residents here. We don't own businesses here, we live here.
We can do that.
Work here.
We can do, in fact, we are looking for one other additional person that maybe has an opposing viewpoint, actually, that we wanted to talk to and put on the.
Somebody that likes blight.
Likes blight.
I'll find him, yes. He's related to the guy with the truck and all the gray cans in it. They're related, I'm sure, yeah. Thank you, anyway. Good move, get started.
Got.
Okay, very good. Any questions for Craig on his report?
You know, the only thing I would say on the blight thing is, and I've had this conversation with Craig before, you know, currently the way our codes are written and everything and our ordinances, if I violate an ordinance, I'm going to get a letter from the town and I'm going to be told, hey, you're in violation of an ordinance and you have 15 days to make corrections or contact the town, do something. So, and especially in the cases of blight or where people total neglect, total don't care, you know, what happens then is, say I don't respond, then I get a ticket. You know, I get administrative citation, I get a $100 fine or something. Now I have 10 days to appeal that. So nothing will happen to me for 10 days, and then I can ignore it again, and maybe I'll get another ticket, and then I have 10 days to appeal it. As we develop this policy, I would suggest that we maybe address the enforcement thing, because when we have blatant, known people that don't care, we have in our code the ability to write that ticket every day. You know, if they want to appeal it and all that, then maybe we can reverse. But I just think that we need to have a little, you guys, the staff needs a little bit heavier hammer, you know, once we get to that place, when somebody is just ignoring the code violations, ignoring the write-ups and everything, ignoring the stop work orders or whatever it might be, boom, $100, $200, $500, $1,000, day after day after day, you know.
That's how we got the attention of the Egg Roll Express, and they do have a debris box out there, a debris trailer.
I just like to state that we don't have a lot of flexibility about how that administrative citation works, because there's a statute by the state legislature that tells us how it works, and those things are set forth there. So the only thing we have authority on is how often we issue the citation after applies only to zoning matters and building regulations, and it does not apply if there's a health or safety issue associated with it. But we don't have the ability to just say, okay, we're going to start issuing on the citation without a warrant.
No, I understand that, Dwight, but it's, our practice has been, and I'm not faulting anybody, it's just over time, our practice has been, because there is an appeal given to anybody that gets an administrative citation, we wait until they exercise the appeal or not before we issue a second citation. We do the waiting period. I'm not objecting to that. We got to do that. The statute sets that out. But once somebody's in violation, once we've done that, here's your fine, and if it isn't, if, you know, here tomorrow, here's another fine, and the next day's another fine, you know, there's got to be a bigger hammer, you know. I mean, the big problem is,
I can tell you the hammer we used to use was the court system.
Suggesting that.
And the court
Not
system
suggesting that.
never worked.
What I'm
It took
pointing out,
2
what I'm
years
saying
to do
publicly,
anything.
Dwight, what I'm saying publicly is that we have developed a practice because we award people an appeal process. We've developed a practice of not doing the second fine, although the code says we can. The very next day, we wait 10 days to see if they're going to appeal before we, and that's all I'm talking about, is a practice we've developed, and we maybe need to give our staff direction as a council or get you legal buy-in on it to where we can have a bigger hammer when the situation warrants it. When I have a gross violator that is ignoring the town, thumbing his nose at the town, then I, you know, I want to be able to, you know, oh, you have 10 days to appeal this $100 ticket, and I want to give you a ticket every day. once, there's a way we can get a bigger hammer.
That's a policy issue. I don't
Okay,
deal with.
that's.
But I think
That's
the
what
the
the-
staff is being more aggressive on this than they have
No,
in
they
the
are.
past.
No.
'Cause- and I know, and that's how we got the attention of Egg Roll and.
And we do have a committee that will bring something back to you.
That's what I was,
Yeah,
That's
so
what-
And we
recommendation.
heard what you said.
So,
that's
okay.
what the ad hoc committee is doing now.
So I think they'll recommend.
I don't mind the government being slow with this stuff. I mean, we don't want to be the heavy hand coming down on people when, if they're not working with us, I understand what you're saying, but we just got to find a balance between the heavy-handedness of the government and working with people that are citizenry. There's a balance there we got to find, and we're slow. I'd rather be slow and be accused of that by someone standing up there than to be someone thought of as you're too heavy and you're doing too much. So we got to find that balance.
Okay, we are going to adjourn to closed session pursuant to Government Code 54956.9.
The issue that's identified as 10A on your agenda.
Okay, do we need to?
Recess.